hello, and welcome to All About You with OMG and Friends, where we talk about the things that you think about. I am your host, OMG, along with my co-host,
This is Lightning.
Silky Smooth, and Daydream.
and our studio guest.
Susan Ned.
Family, we'd like to thank you for joining us today. We ask that you please join in on the conversation, where your thoughts, your comments, and your opinions help drive the conversation. When I mention food, diet, exercise, and nutrition, what comes to mind? Health. Family, I need you to overstand this, not understand, but overstand that your health is your wealth, and making changes to how you invest in your body is essential to having a long-lasting life. Your health is indubitably the most valuable thing you will ever own and will be given, and without it, you have absolutely nothing. Money is not tantamount. A lot of people unthinkingly take it for granted that the foods and the selections that they make that are processed contain GMOs and MSG, pesticides, antibiotics, hormones, gluten, arsenic, or an overload in sugar, all increases your chances for diabetes, cancer, fibroids, heart attack, and high blood pressure. Heart attack is the #1 killer for all Americans, and 1 out of 4 African Americans have high blood pressure. And 34% of Latinos suffer from heart disease and diabetes as well. And it is the fastest growing disease amongst minorities because of our diets. Living a healthy lifestyle seems to be what's trendy right now. Whether you are a flexitarian, pescatarian, vegetarian, vegan, fruitarian, herbivore, omnivore, non-pork eater, or just wanting to be more conscious of how you take care of your body is paramount. This is known as self-love and self-care. There are descriptive words on food labels such as organic, farm-raised, no GMOs, and gluten-free, and you'll see these signs everywhere. People, please be knowledgeable of these labels and what they mean. Now, I personally became a vegetarian 45 years ago when there was no literature, no trend to follow. I was the trend, and I was considered to be weird at that time for not being carnivorous. There were no Whole Food stores, no books written, no recipes, as well as very little research, if any, was done on vegetarianism back then. This was 1971. Hell, and I was 17. Dang. Today, however, there's a plethora of literature, research, and grocery stores to accommodate your health food needs. Please, family, become an ingredient list shopper and be aware of what is in your food. Know what you are consuming and its long-term effect on your longevity or the lack thereof. Unfortunately, most of us wait until it is too late, and we have to have a reason to change our unhealthy lifestyles and habits. That reason is you get diagnosed and you are forced to realize just how sick you have become and just how well you really are. Family, there are foods that heal and there are foods that kill. Your task at hand is to learn and know the difference. Let's talk about wellness with our guest Susan Ned, a wellness coach. But before we do, we're going to have Lightning read a brief bio on Susan Ned.
Awesome. So I'll share a little bit with you about Susan. Susan found her voice and purpose after surviving a heart attack at the age 43. All right, man, a little bit of difficulty there. All right.
Technical.
Yeah, so I'll share a little bit with you about Susan. Susan Ned found her voice and purpose after surviving a heart attack at the age of 43. She moved to Houston in 2002 with her husband of almost 17 years, Stephen, and is mom to Shantae, 31, and Paul, who's 28. As a grandma to 3, and additionally, she's a grandma to 3. Her heart is for service, and it comes to the rescue to 4 dogs, building a foundation that donates bikes to deserving children, and giving families dinners for the holidays. Now in her 50s, wow. Okay. She stepped into her ministry and her mission to mentor men and women through health and wellness. Coaching, her goal is to change the legacy of the family's health, one family member at a time. She says that she no longer makes resolutions because warriors have missions. Amen to that.
I'm a warrior. I like it.
Welcome. And might I add, gentlemen, she is a beautiful, tall woman, you know. My brother have a weakness for a tall woman, so, oh my goodness.
Stop. Thank you so much.
I call you statuesque.
I know, that's the word I just used. Susan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so very much.
Okay, we're glad to have you, and we'd like for you to share your story with our listeners, and hopefully we might be able to prevent someone else from having this situation in their lives.
Absolutely.
So tell us your story.
That's easy. It was July, about 10 years ago, and I tell people all the time that we're under the illusion that there's going to be some grand something that's going to let you know that you're about to have a heart attack. It literally came up while I was sitting on my couch in my house, sitting there watching TV, relaxing. All of a sudden, I felt an increasing pain, a seizing in my shoulders. No one ever told me about that part.
I've never heard that either.
I mean, I've heard a lot of different things. And my mother, keeping in mind, my mother had a heart attack, my father had a heart attack.
Ooh.
So as my sister so adequately puts it, we go out clutching our chest.
Wow.
So I'm thinking it's going to be something totally different. And I was having shortness of breath. Thought that I was a little anxious. But it got to the point where it got so bad that I was afraid. And I must have had that look on my face because my husband, he knows I'm not an alarmist. He jumps up and he asks me, he says, "Are you okay?" And I shook my head, no. And he said, "Do you need 911?" And I said, yes. He knew something. His eyes got as big as bow dollars. He knew something was wrong because I am not that girl. I'm that drive yourself to the ER girl.
Absolutely.
So ambulance comes, and I promise you all, you heard how old I am. And even though I was only 43 at the time, these youngsters come in the door, and I'm like, I'm going to die. They're young. What I forgot was they're fresh out of school. It's still there. It's still they still
more
got it.
cognizant than the older doctors, right?
And because of my mother's heart attack and high blood pressure, I knew what blood pressure. I know how to read blood pressure from your old-fashioned blood pressure things, but I looked at the numbers when he said, "Well, if you're just having an anxiety attack, we can leave you and you can just work on your breathing and bring it down." I look at the numbers. The numbers are 191 over some astronomical 100 and something.
That's stroke stuff there.
Oh, and
heart
that's
attack.
Yeah.
absolutely, and that's what he said. He turned to his colleague as calm as he could, and he said, "Get the stretcher." And as you know, I tell people, I'm a God-fearing woman. So you start saying, "Jesus." Jesus, and you're like, please don't let me. This is not the way I want to die. Here, all the neighbors watching in my house. My husband, I haven't been married 10 years. Exactly. I said, this is not a good. I'm in my ugly sweats. Not a good look.
Right.
Not a
You
good
had
look.
an outfit planned and everything.
Exactly. You gotta have a
Graceful
certain look
death.
if you gonna go. Not sweating and
Put your makeup done, your hair.
No,
Oh,
no,
no.
that's a tragedy.
Oh, no.
But, and I think that the charge nurse that was there because, believe it or not, if you do not show that you're having a heart attack on your EKG, the next step is blood work. Because blood work will show them if there's some damage or something going on. I don't know what they check for, but they told me that the nurse on staff there, the charge nurse, said, your EKG is fine right this second, but everything else points to a heart attack.
Wow.
We're gonna
That
keep
had
you.
to be frightening to hear.
I tell everyone it's the kind of thing that just changes. It changes the way you think, but not in the way you think immediately.
Yes, it's a process.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what got you there had to be habit and lifestyle.
Absolutely. And believing the lie in my mind, I got until I'm in my 70s for this to ever be an issue. It's not gonna happen right now.
Well, surprisingly, a lot of young people
Yes.
have heart attacks quite early. I'm sure all of us in this
And
room
we
have
heard
had
of people
friends.
in their 30s.
30s had-
Wasn't Arthur Ashe, the tennis star, didn't he have a heart attack at
No,
like
Arthur
32?
Ashe had HIV.
No, but
stuff.
he didn't he have a heart attack prior to
Well,
that?
after you have HIV, you need to go. No, I don't
But
know.
I think it was him.
A
It was
plethora
a
of
tennis
things
star
follow.
There
in
you
their
go.
30s that had heart attacks.
Yeah, you
so.
know, I've actually known a Jewish friend of mine. They used to own a jewelry store here in Houston. I mean, he ran every day, big cut, buffed, Middle Eastern man, and dropped and had a heart attack at 40 while jogging.
I have, there's somebody that I know, by 41, he had already had a massive heart attack and was on a pacemaker.
Mm-hmm.
By 41.
By 41?
By 41. And he worked out regularly.
That's what I'm
It
saying.
wasn't like he was a heavy drinker. And even asked specifically, is it because of the drink he went? And the doctor said, no, that's not what it is.
So, Susan, what do you think precipitated your situation, and invariably probably other people's situation as well, being so young?
Absolutely. I was about 30 pounds heavier, which when people see the pictures of it, they're like, but you didn't look. Okay, so I was solid as a rock, though.
And you tall, you carry well.
I said, but the thing is, I think that might have been part of the problem, though, because even though I knew I needed to lose weight, but I was carrying it well. So that was one of the problems. It was bigger than just my size. It was how I got there.
Yes.
Go
Tell
ahead.
us about that.
Well, I tell people, same house, same food, same disease. I cook like mama now.
Uh-oh.
No,
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
she from Alabama.
Oh,
Yeah,
my.
yeah.
I cook like mom and them, which my legacy of heart disease through that meant that I cooked like them, I ate like them,
And you
I
will
had a
invariably die like that.
Absolutely.
Well, and what's not being said is you think like them.
Mhm.
If that's what they believe and thought, you will
Absolutely.
very well believe in thought, and that becomes part of the process as you're feeding your physical body. You're feeding your emotional
Absolutely.
and spiritual aspect as well. I mean, so that's that, and I think that often gets overlooked.
A
You are
personal
absolutely right.
trainer told me that because I said I was afraid I was going to be like my folks, same thing, obese, eating the same
Mhm.
types of foods. And he said, well, if you eat like them, then you will look just like them, but you don't have to do that. And I said, I guess I don't. And I changed at that point. So when they have their types of foods, I'm like, no, I don't want that. I completely changed my life because I didn't want
To have
the
that
same. There,
situation.
you know, I love them, but I don't want to look like them. I love them, but I don't want their diseases.
So no chitterlings for you?
Not at
That's
all.
how they're spelled in the grocery store.
What?
Chitterlings. CHITTERLINGS.
Not chitlins.
Not
Chitlins.
not INS, it's INGS. So I pronounce them chitterlings.
Chitterlings
Or you
au
can put an
jus.
S on them because that's
They
what it
serve
smells
them at a
like.
restaurant in New York City, and they call them chitterlings au jus, and they serve them
my.
chilled on a bed of lettuce.
Oh.
No, that's just wrong. That's just wrong.
So you had something to say,
Well,
David?
my thing was gonna be you don't want to eat like them, but at the same time, you know, your food is in
It's
your culture.
That's right.
And you don't want to lose that. So I get it. I don't want, you know, my Spanish rice to cause me to drop dead of a heart attack or my niece or anyone else. But at the same time, you know, I want it to taste like mom's rice. I want it to taste like
Absolutely.
Momo's house.
Absolutely.
You know, so that's the issue I have.
Now let me ask you another question.
That's the issue a
Susan.
lot of people have.
Oh, absolutely.
And Susan, when you realized in advance that you had lost your, oh, not, I apologize, your mom had a heart attack, somebody else in your family
Absolutely.
had a
My
heart attack,
dad.
did it ever cross your mind that you might be on the receiving end of one, since that was an hereditary situation, but yet
Yep, and it sure did. But
you
I
knew
thought,
that.
I thought, there you go thinking again, Susan.
Right.
I thought I had time. You know how you say, I'm going to do it next week. I'm going to do it next year. It's going to be my New Year's resolution. It's going to be this, this, and this.
Constantly putting
And,
it off.
and you think it has to be these huge, sweeping changes all at one time. And I talked myself out of it. I talked myself into a place where, now, and let me also say, it took me 2 years to admit to people that I even had a heart attack.
Wow.
Because here I am thinking,
Why,
well,
embarrassment?
The
Yeah.
ego wouldn't
My ego.
have you. Yeah.
like, oh, she gonna be that, I'm gonna be that girl that had that heart attack thing. And I would get myself so worked up that I was going to the ER, hyperventilating for anxiety attacks. My cardiologist told me one day, he said, you know what, Susan? He said, you're not unlike many of my other younger patients. You get yourself worked up about it now that it's happened, realizing that you
Absolutely.
haven't lived
No,
the
that's
kind of
life-threatening.
life.
That's
Exactly.
life-threatening,
Right.
yeah.
And you're sitting in the cardiologist's office with grandma and papa.
And you're the youngest one.
Right, and they're like, who are you here with, baby? I'm here with me.
I'm the one who's here.
I'm-
Right,
right.
right. So it does something to you psychologically, physically. I couldn't walk an incline of a parking garage. I'd be, I was like, people would look at me like, what is wrong with her? What is wrong? And I would be in tears because I was fearful.
Absolutely.
And
of
it's,
course.
oh yeah, I
That's
did.
young.
So I just said, you know, I gotta do something I know, but I need to figure out what that something means in my life, for me.
I think coming forth and telling your story always kind of helps other people because nobody wants to get actually involved in that if you have an opportunity to prevent that. So what do you think, what changes did you have to make almost immediately after coming out of the hospital?
They talk about, and I always say, and I will preface this by saying, I love my medical professionals. Let us say that now, because they saved my life. However, they will tell you themselves that they are not all trained in actual nutrition.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's true.
So when they tell you, oh, you're going to need to cut back on salt, when you find out that the people that are treating you, oh yeah, I take blood pressure medication. Oh yeah, I'm a diabetic. You're like, oh God, I'm gonna die. So I knew I had to cut back on salt. But then when it came to the actual activity of reading the labels and figuring it out, it'll tell you anything.
That's what I said earlier about becoming as a basic, ingredient this shopper. But on that note, we will come right back. We're going to go to break. We'll be right back.
Right. I think mine finally did come back.
I don't need the volume adjusted. It's just
You are
the
listening
headset. I got
to
you.
Federal. Share your opinion by calling
I know it's funny.
718-79-0092
Somebody else says it's warm. I was told that before.
I was like, yeah, she was like this.
Reading a great book of intimate self-indulgence. Hi, this is Sophie Smooth with the All About Me show. I recommend Key Ingredients to Loving Yourself, Nourishment from the Inside Out by Gloria Davis Armstrong. Each page is like a pilgrimage to self-discovery. Unlock your ingredients to loving yourself more. This book will stimulate your senses. Begin your journey to self-love today by visiting keys2loveself.com and place your order. That's keys2loveself.com.
I'm telling you, I hear something crazy now because I don't know. Hey,
So far, so good.
the thing you gave me,
Where's our fan?
that goes to Rocket Balboa. Don't say nothing about God at Fly.
I'm sweating.
Wait, say it again.
The link you gave me just goes to Rocket Balboa. It doesn't say it's you gotta fly.
The song, the theme song to the Rocky movie,
Right.
Gonna Fly Now.
That's not what it says it is.
Oh.
I did go and find one by Bill Conte that says gotta fly with his theme song. So
Okay.
which one is it?
I guess
You
that-
sure it's the right link you gave me?
maybe I did get it wrong because I got the one where he's, going around, he's in the video and he's running the scene where he's jogging.
Yeah.
But the music is playing. There's no dialogue in it. It's just the music.
Oh, just music.
Yeah, just the
Oh, okay.
music. And gonna fly now.
All right, I'll start talking about the song. Okay.
Yeah, the theme to Rocky.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I got it.
You know what? You know?
Yeah. You got it?
I
Okay.
think so. Tell me when you're ending now.
Yeah, it looks
I don't
pretty.
hear nothing.
I know, I'm sorry. You guys saw you? What? Oh, really?
I told you.
Thank you. That's what we're going to do salon today. It was raining, and I was like, I need that $50. Hold on, wait. Another week. One more week.
That's why I told you my pedicure is out of order. Trying to save a little money.
Right?
Yeah. Hey, some things you got to do yourself. Your beauty has to not be something you have to go. It needs to be something you can do.
No, I practice.
Which is why I started wearing eyelashes. Because I used to go and get the extensions done.
Did you?
Every couple of weeks it was $35 to $40. But whenever you had somewhere to go, your real lashes fall out. So when that fell out, you got a big old gap.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have, you ever experienced that? I'm like,
Yeah.
and it's always when you go to job interview.
Or important gas.
Or a man looking up in your face. And you know,
And you're like, just come out.
what's that? Why you looking like that?
Or you look like you're winking at the wrong guy.
You looking at me and you looking at the dude
There
behind
was
me.
one girl at work, her eyelash was jacked up, and the guy was like, "You're looking cockeyed." I know, it's like
I had a
really.
guy ask me, I know what's your lashes? And these are false. Were experiment, my own or wrong.
Yeah, right.
So my eyelashes. I said, I think you're pretty. Yes, they are. And that's not a thing to ask a person.
Let's not put something that will come to mind when I'm looking at somebody. I'm gonna ask them that was their eyelash. I told you about biceps. Oh, there you go.
Welcome back, and you are listening to All About You with OMG and Friends. We do have a guest in the studio today, Susan Ned, and she is a wellness coach, and she was kind of telling us about her situation about after having had a heart attack at 43. So I think before we went to break, we were talking about what changes you had to make immediately coming out of the hospital as quickly as you could make them, because again, this is a behavior modification.
Right.
So tell us what happened.
I started out by watching how much salt I was getting. And in doing that, you all of a sudden realize how much salt is in everything.
Everything. It's in
And
sugar.
Absolutely.
You believe
Absolutely. And you recognize that the challenge is going to be how to still have good tasting food.
that? With no salt?
Without salt.
Right.
Yeah.
Mrs. Dash?
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you use the Mrs. Dash line?
You know what?
Doesn't that have a
I-
lot of salt in it though? No, seriously, doesn't Mrs. Dash have a
It
lot of
probably
salt?
does. Everything else
It's
does.
not too, I'll be honest with you. I tried it one time. And then I just
It's no
said, you know what,
flavor.
that's okay.
It's
I'll
no
leave it alone.
flavor. It's
No
no
flavor.
flavor. I've tried it.
And a lot of people
So
love
then maybe
it.
there isn't any salt.
Yeah, maybe she's right. You're
Let's
right.
revisit. Uh-oh. You're going to have to go into the store now and look at it.
Again, reading labels.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I'll be honest, that was the first thing I did, and I didn't do anything else. To me, that was a big enough challenge. And in cutting back on how much I was eating, I could even wrap my head around anything bigger than that after that. And I realized too, I needed to talk to someone, because they don't even recommend a nutritionist right away. They're like, you have to ask them, do I need to talk to somebody about what I'm eating or what I'm doing? I need some steps.
Well, see, doctors are mainly more anatomical,
Absolutely.
and they're part of the pharmaceutical big pharma situation. Their rationale is never towards eating, and I think it was Hippocrates who said, "Let thy food be thy medicine, and thy medicine be thy food."
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's basically where we need to go back to. But
Absolutely. And it wasn't until I started to dig deeper for myself and was introduced to an incredible woman who said, your body needs more nutrients. You need to feed those cells. Give them something to fight with. Give them something to heal you with. Because that's, like you said, that's what food is meant to do. That was the initial.
So you had to build up your own defense system.
Absolutely.
It was weak or watered down or non-existent.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the things that were barraging our body, as you talked about in your intro, you talked about our sugars, things like that. People don't even know that sugar has been linked to Alzheimer's and dementia.
absolutely,
So you've
and
got
cancers in some of these diseases
Absolutely.
feeds off of sugar.
Exactly.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that about Alzheimer's, because my grandmother has been staying with us, and for years she's been battling dementia and Alzheimer's, and it's getting worse, of course, as she's gotten older. But we also noticed that all she wants to do is eat sugar.
Yeah.
And
Are
we're
you
fighting.
serious?
Yes, we'll go to the store and she says, "You see what she's putting in the basket?" And I even asked my mom. I said, "What's all this junk?" She got quiet and was basically told me to shut up because my grandma was right there, and she's like, "That's hers." But it was like honey buns and sugar stuff, and oh, I'm okay. And she ended up. My mom didn't realize those little snack-sized packs of like Butterfingers or whatever.
She's gone through a whole.
Before they even got out of the store, my mom grabbed it for
Are you
checkout.
serious?
She had eaten 6 of the 8.
Is there a craving of some sort for the
Absolutely.
sugar? Is that what this is
Absolutely.
about?
It's
Well,
more
sugar is
addictive.
addictive. I'm going to say it's worse than
Absolutely.
cocaine.
What would be the deficiency that is causing the sugar urge?
Actually, it's not even a deficiency. The more you have of it, the more you crave it.
Okay.
I believe it.
And they've done the studies to prove it, like you said.
Absolutely, because I have a huge sweet tooth, and I've told y'all that before.
do
Don't
as
give me.
well.
I will refuse sugar because I know as soon as I'm just all day long, I will have nothing but sugar that day.
I agree with you, Daydream, because as long as I don't have any sugar that morning, I'm great. The minute I delve into one piece of sugar, the rest of the day, I'm like a kid with ADHD. I'm zipping around.
I'm the exact opposite. Sugar fills me up really fast. If I eat one piece of sugar, I'm full. It's like, when you were a kid, they tell you don't eat your dessert; it'll spoil your appetite. It really does for me.
Oh no.
Sugar
No, not
will.
me.
Yeah, I would go for fat and salt first before I go for sugar.
Now, upon giving up salt, what was who did you go to for nutrition? Did you suggest someone? Did they suggest someone to you? Because again, if you don't ask a physician about nutrition, they will have you already entrenched in the medical barrage out there.
Medications.
Yes, you go
Absolutely.
from one medication to the next, and to
Right.
the next, and you're
And I was
Lost.
on 2 blood pressure medications as it was.
At the time when you had the heart attack.
Well, no, at the
or
time,
just-
believe it or not, at the time I had a heart attack. 2 weeks before then, I had a stress test. What?
Wow.
and it didn't show. Are you kidding?
My cardiologist's hair was on fire because he said, we just saw you, which just goes to show,
How
in
quickly?
addition to the food, it's your stress level. It's your lack of exercise. You're not oxygenating your body properly.
Absolutely.
But by giving up salt, definitely pulling back on my sugar intake. But just being very, and I had to start ferreting out my own nutritional people. And fortunately, it's amazing. At the time I wasn't a big Facebook person, so I didn't have my picture up. So people who weren't sure it was me didn't want to reach out.
Right.
So I decided to upload my picture. And all of a sudden, all these people started to connect with me. And I finally got brave enough that when they started to talk about, because to be honest with you, before when I would talk about it, I would start to cry. Because I was just so worn out, thinking about the look on my husband's face, thinking about the grandchildren I would have never met, all of that just got me all worked up. So I wouldn't talk about it, but put my face on Facebook, someone reached out. That's when I started to get some direction and a wealth of
Information.
It just started to come to me.
Context.
Yeah. Just telling me, don't worry about it, don't get yourself worked up. Let's walk you through what we know.
Well, that's easier said than done after something that major.
Absolutely.
To tell you to stay calm.
And I'm sure we have tons of listeners out there who have experienced the same thing or know someone who has. Please give us a call here at the studio, 713-789-0096. Of course, those who can't call, please give us a text at 986 984-664-2638. And of course, follow along on our Facebook live feed. You can also respond to us there.
Now, I have a question. You mentioned in your bio that your mission is to change the legacy of our family's health dynamics. Is this like a 12-step program? Have you created, because I'll be real honest with you, when you start saying changing the legacy of someone's family dynamics, and it starts with diet, it almost needs to be as simple as step 1, do this. Step 2, no Snickers. Step 3, no ice cream before bed. Step 4, no salt at all. I mean, I know it's
So like,
Uh,
not
hi,
that
my name is
simple.
Susan and I've had a heart attack.
Exactly.
Kind of like that. And then no Snickers.
The Snickers bar and the Pepsi away.
Yeah, yeah, can't put those two together.
Yeah, and I'll be right there next to you. Hi, my name is Daydream, and I busted my zipper.
We spoke of that earlier.
You're not alone. It's almost as simple as that.
Okay.
Because there's a part of it where you need more water. I'm going to sound like our grandparents now.
Yeah, I know. We
Need
all
more
know,
water.
we know.
So, and that helps to hydrate your body. It is good for so many things more than just to quench a thirst. Sometimes when you're hungry, it's actually a thirst.
Yeah.
Instead of hunger.
Exactly. So there's a lot of things. It helps you with your digestion, all of that. Getting more sleep. Okay, I'm going to say that and we're going to laugh because who in here gets enough sleep?
Nobody. How can
I
you?
And
get-
notice I avoided eye contact. I just looked away.
Like 8,
Unicorn.
I get 8 hours. I shut off at 11. I wake up at 6:30 like clockwork every night.
What?
I can
for
drink
you. Must be
coffee
nice.
before I go to bed.
Oh, I can do
sleep
that. Yeah.
At 11.
I can do
Yep.
that too.
Yeah.
That is the one thing I am so grateful for. I have perfect
A good
peace.
night's sleep is
Perfect
that's a
peace.
beautiful thing.
It
Yes,
is.
it is.
And enough of it. And
It
enough
is a
of it.
beautiful
Yes.
thing. Yeah. I don't sleep very well. I
Oh,
didn't realize
I
how
do.
poorly I slept until I had a Fitbit. And so I was using it as a pedometer. I'm walking 10,000 steps,
Right.
and I also used it for monitoring my sleep. Well, after I saw how little sleep I was getting, I slept less because then I was mad because I actually had something I could look at the show. Out of 8 hours of sleep, you had 2 hours of real sleep, and the other 6 hours was just a very light sleep. So I've only had 2 hours of sound sleep out of 8. So I go to bed in enough time to get 8 hours of sleep, but I just can't go there.
Well, then I'm grateful for my sleep and dreams. I have vivid dreams and color and all that
Me
kind of
too.
stuff. So that means I'm getting a good night's sleep then.
Yeah.
Because I wake up happy and ready to go.
Okay.
And
Well, now
excited.
Yep.
We have some unicorns in
I know.
there.
Well, now that makes me concerned because I average maybe 5 hours a night, and even then, I still get up early, and it's like nothing. After 3 hours, I'm like, okay, I'm pop up, let's go.
But sleep
So-
deprivation is real.
It
It's
is
serious.
very
It
real.
is real.
Yes.
It is really,
Yeah.
really, really real.
So back to your list.
Oh,
Okay,
absolutely.
sleeping well.
And sleep deprivation will also impact your heart.
Wow.
Hold
I think
that
we've
thought.
got a caller on the line. Caller, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Tell us a little bit about where you're from and who you are.
Oh, great. Yeah, thank you for having me on your show. This is a great topic to have.
Thank
And
you.
my name is Jason. I live right here in Houston, Texas. And I'm calling because my father had a heart attack. And so it's certainly a personal backdrop that I have some personal relation to. And you know what? One of the funny things my dad told me as well. You mentioned some of these untold symptoms. One of his was burping and belching.
Yeah.
Really?
I've heard that.
Indigestion.
Like there's something stuck in your chest. Yeah. My grandfather told me
I
that.
didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
So yeah, another indication that it's possible heart issues going on. But certainly to be in the solution of this, I mean, I love what you guys are saying. I think you guys are hitting it on the point, or hitting it on point when you're saying, it really does begin with the family. And I can tell you, Thanksgiving, Christmas,
Yes.
it really just on certain Sundays, just someone if your church is real good, she goes cooking, and we invite the whole neighborhood into the house. And, it's just like, how much do you want? Eat everything. But, I do wonder if there ought to be some sort of just openness to say, hey, we need to be health conscious. How about, you're going to eat real good, but just eat real good with one plate. Not two, not three, but eat good with one plate.
Or
Go ahead.
Or
Yeah.
make it a practice. My family loves to indulge. I have wonderful siblings that have learned the legacies of traditions of cooking. But, most of the time afterwards, we go for a walk. I mean, it is the you have to go for a walk. I mean, we would love to sit around and watch the game and do some things, and we may do that. But before the end of the day, we actually get out and we move around and go for a walk. And so you do have to, like you said, you have to start implementing some new behaviors into the family dynamics. That's part of changing the legacy. So yeah, Jason, you may have to be the spearhead of that in your family.
Hey, good point. Good point.
And don't get discouraged by. I tell people, regardless of what I do, my family is like, I want to hear what you got to say.
Yeah.
I want to eat this cake, and I want to hear it.
Yeah.
So you have to toughen
Oh
up.
no, here comes Susan.
Exactly. I heard that just recently.
Did you invite her this year?
Right there
You
she
know, she's gonna be telling me that.
What is she bringing to dinner?
Exactly.
She's like vegetarian.
Exactly.
Some
Coming here with her
lime
weight,
jello.
her weight loss,
She gonna start preaching.
and her kale salad.
Okay, eat
And
vegetables.
kale salad is good.
You know,
It
but
is.
diet is important.
It is, and you have to know that there's a good end to it, and not to be concerned about absolutes. So we're talking, okay, water,
Right,
sleep, better food, move your booty,
right,
move your booty.
You got
Okay,
it?
so your whole body, but move your booty.
right.
And it doesn't have to be this big thing that people make it. You do not have to do these.
All these
Extremes.
X96
No.
exercises that they've got.
No.
That stuff is great.
P98.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
You don't have to take all
X,
day.
whatever it is. Yeah.
I'll make my exit from your excellent and great radio show. But in closing, I'll say that one of the practices that I will definitely wish to translate into my family is what you just mentioned, which is taking a walk, take a stroll after the meal. That's a great idea, and so thank you for sharing that. And as I go, I will listen over the airwaves.
Thank you,
so much.
Jason.
Appreciate
Thank you for checking in.
And follow us on Facebook. The conversation always continues.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, I think everyone has been affected by a heart attack. As I mentioned earlier, 1 in 4 African Americans have heart attacks. 34.4% Hispanics are having heart attacks, and all of this is precipitated by a poor diet.
Absolutely.
Diet is everything.
Diet
We don't
is everything.
realize how important it is.
I have to share with you all, both of my parents are deceased, bless their heart. And my father actually died of a heart disease, and my mother had a stroke, and then the pinch eventually deteriorated. And one day, well, before she passed away, she was in assisted living, and the young lady said, the doctor that was there, she says, Lightning, she says, well, you were looking good there. You picked up a few pounds. She's like, you got to be careful. Your hereditary health doesn't allow for
Oh,
that.
she did that. Oh, man, she went there right away. Oh my God.
Wow.
And I was like, now
You
hold
must have
up.
been devastated.
No, I was like, now hold up. I hear what you're saying, but I ain't got to own that. And you know what? As a result of that, I didn't own that, but I just thought that was awfully ballsy of her to tell me
She's
based
trying
on
to save your life.
she knew the dynamics of both of my parents'
Your parents,
background.
right, that's right.
And so I think what was so, I guess if I had been a more sensitive person, I could have actually gone into fear and said, well, I've looked at my father's death certificate and it says, heart disease, and I could say, well, that's going to be my path. That's not going to be my path. I've already noted and named that it's not going to be. And so I'm taking the necessary steps as you're speaking of, and you have to be very proactive about it very, very early on, and be mindful of it.
Absolutely.
Well, even though we may have that sort of information and knowledge, the food industry is pushing supersizing,
Absolutely.
overeating,
Yes.
all you can eat.
Mm-hmm.
Society is pushing you, and then everything that we do, food is surrounding it. I am so tired of food. I actually, a couple of years back, before I had my little health issues, I would eat every other day because I think as Americans we consume too much food. And after having fasted for 15 days at one point, it is amazing to realize that even without having eaten any food at all, you still have eliminations. 15 days later of no food, you are still eliminating. So it concerns me how we're packing food on top of food, on top of food. No exercise, no just being cognizant of what keeps you healthy. And we're creating a society of overweight, obese people.
Morbidly
So
obese.
they're living to
You
eat.
mentioned, you were mentioning, the portions and everything else. Yes, in America, we definitely have huge issues. Here in Texas, down south, we have even bigger portions.
Right.
A good buddy of mine has been living in China the last 5-6 years. And when he comes visit, that's the first thing he says. He goes, I just cannot get over
How much
the
food?
portions of
That's
food.
right.
And he grew up here in Texas.
But
so
you go to Europe and you travel to other places, they eat, they'll put food in the center of the plate. And it's very picturesque. I mean, it's nicely done and little radishes and stuff on the side.
Presentation
But they're,
is
yeah, but they're
everything.
not going to give you a big plate of food with onions hanging off the plate.
Yeah, well, the rest of us would be like, where's the other half?
Where's the rest of the food? Right,
Where's that?
exactly.
As you came off your fast, did you find that you had to slowly wean yourself into back to eating again?
When I came off the fast, I did have to wean myself back into eating. But also what can happen with the fast, guys, and I was fascinated with this, is that you lose the desire
Yes,
to
you do.
eat. Oh my
Yeah,
God. I mean, I was
that's
just happy. My daughter was like, Mommy,
Your
you haven't
stomach
eaten anything.
shrinks.
It's like, what the hell? I'm good.
Yeah.
But you're not good. Diet and exercise and logging what you're eating is still a good practice. But it took me a while to get back in. You come back in with soups and that sort of thing,
Right.
broths
Sure.
and everything like that, kind of
Yeah.
slowly.
And-
And then it's very hard for you once you've not eaten and you've
Yeah, you
given
can't
your
just take
organs
it.
a break.
Yeah.
You know, you're feeling too good about yourself. It's like, I'm not trying to eat that. I feel
Right.
good.
That is true. I fasted
good. I don't
for
wanna
30
do that.
days, and you do have to kind of gradually, because I did
Slow back
got back
into
to
it.
food too quickly, and I was wrapped around the toilet
Yeah.
because
I bet you were
I was
miserable.
regurgitating because I had tried to
Consume
introduce
too much food.
too much
back
food.
to your body.
No, and the body said no, and I really had to continue the fast to the point where I had to
You
start
love it.
fasting once a week. I couldn't stop. After
Yeah.
30 days, you have to really be
So
mindful
is a
of that.
fast in any way included in, or cleansing of some sort?
Detoxing.
Detoxing.
We call it detoxing.
Okay.
And what we call detoxing is more of moving into a more plant-based
Yes.
Diet.
because that is what our bodies love. I'm
Herbivore.
Yeah. Now, I do eat some meat, particular
Meat.
about
Huh?
Yeah.
what kind I eat and when I eat. And I don't eat a lot of it because there are so many things connected. And I'm not Oprah, so I'm not going to start naming stuff because, you
And
know.
he's trying to get you
Yeah, I don't have those kind of dollars. But what I will say is that our bodies do not need to consume meat for our proteins.
Amen. That's
We
why
get
in
it.
45 years, I was 17.
See?
For some reason, I like I said, back then, I was considered to either be part of a cult, or you had to be on, you had to be on, you had to be
Crazy.
on, you know, you had to be on drugs.
You
You're
were.
just weird. Yeah, you're just
No.
weird. You know, it's like you really had, you know, it was a decision that I made at 17. And I am now 63. I'm 63. So
Sure.
it's been that long, and my daughter keeps trying to introduce little pieces of meat somewhere, but it's like I have this sensor that says, oh no, and I push it away because I know she's trying to sneak meat in there. But I just believe from a godly and biblical position that we were first vegetarians. Look at these huge animals. You know, the gorillas and some of these larger animals
right.
that
Yeah,
don't
pandas,
they
they
never
do
eat
not
meat.
eat
meat.
They do not eat
And
meat.
elephants, they don't eat meat.
And look how strong they are.
That's my point.
OMG's being mild. And she told me this real story. It was about a hot dog. A hot dog.
Why?
It was a hot dog. She was getting ready to eat a hot dog, and she's like, "Wait a minute,
What is in here?"
And they could do that to you.
That's and once
Like
I
spam.
once I read,
Just like, well, oh, gross. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've never been a fan of spam, but hot dogs, nuggets, chicken nuggets
Oh,
have done
yeah.
that for people, and
Oh, that stuff is-
I've seen the videos, and I'm just like, oh, that's so sad, and it's really gross. I'm hungry.
And that's where my detox came into play because I used to do that too. I was like, oh, that's really bad. It's really.
I'm like, oh, that's
But-
so sad. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, I know.
But in doing it, what was interesting for me, because I think I may have told you this, that I could do some damage on some sweets.
Wow.
Ice cream. My husband, he's been 3 or 4 years now where he has not had any more Bluebell ice cream. That was his thing. That was his jam. That was my first 30 pounds in our marriage.
Oh, and that's so sad. But on that note, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Wow. Bluebell.
Wow, that strike itself hurt us. Huh?
You are listening.
Not the strike, but when they had to stop
Share your
Bluebell.
opinion by
I
calling
thought that was
713-789-0096.
Yeah, the listeners
I don't trust them the same now. So I'm afraid once you have issues.
This is Lightning.
Well,
What
yeah,
about
what's
you?
funny about it is he had already
Keep a
given
secret?
out
Well, I can't. So
Bluebell
I'll share
before the
with you
strike.
awesome
It's
book
like-
by Gloria Davis
Probably a
Armstrong.
good thing I gave it up.
To learn yourself. It's filled with yummy comfort recipes
Look at Janelle has a comment. She said it
and a truly heartwarming journey. You know, a great family meal, friends, laughter, and this book are a perfect parent from the heart, sure to make you a hosting hit. You'll be transformed by the
Because if I had
generation
not gone
secrets
to an
that will
emergency
warm
room,
your
they told me it
spirits
was a
and
heart
nourish your
attack.
tummy.
Like I said,
Grab a
I
copy
never
today
No.
at
See, my mom had, her
www.keystoloveyourself.com.
gallbladder had to be taken out.
Life
but
is so complex.
What ended up happening, we figured out because she still wouldn't tell us what it was. She thought she was having a heart attack. Her and my dad had gone out of town, And on the drive back, you know, she just kept saying she didn't feel well. And then finally, she was like, you need to get to a hospital. He goes, what's wrong? She goes, you need to get to a hospital. Because she didn't want to tell him. She thought she was having a heart attack in the car and wouldn't tell him. She just said, take me to the hospital.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so, and it ended up just being her gallbladder, thank God, and, you know, pancreas and stuff like that. But she really thought that was the same thing. She's like, oh my God, this is going to be it. I'm just glad she went, because she's always wanted, I don't feel good, this and that. We'll go to the hospital. She won't ever go. So for her to have said, take me, that was scary.
I'm going to give Janelle's comment.
Yeah, when we come back.
If you don't mind.
Your station.
We're back on?
Oh my God.
Barbara Kelly.
That message I sent her this morning when she was talking about something I said, what about Mariah Carey era? She's like, I was putting my face on. That was 5 hours ago. It looks beautiful. 5 hours. That was at least about 9 o'clock.
I think I could
She believed it. She That was in your honest
If only we could really fly. And fly at a very high altitude, no less. Okay?
I believe Susan Nett is flying.
I know,
like
right?
I'm flying.
Yeah, I believe she believes she can fly. Yes, she got that
Natural
high.
So, Susan, what else is there that we need to do? What is it that you did? Tell us about what you personally did to bring yourself up out of a situation that was very dire at one point.
Absolutely.
So you
Well-
got rid of the salt, you
Right.
exercised, you got enough sleep. Praise God for that.
Well, no, okay, rewind. Not so much enough sleep. I'm still, that's a
Still
challenge I
working
still
on
work
that.
on.
Are you really?
That's a challenge I still work on, because I'm like you. I might go in time to get enough hours, but I don't typically do that,
No.
and I'm working on that. That's.
Have you tried purging before going to bed? You take it-
Purging
purging
and
is in taking a legal notebook. Everything that comes to mind, write it down, write it down, write it
You know
down,
what,
write it down,
someone
write it
just
down,
told
write
me
it down, write it
that,
down, write it
and I
down, write it
really,
down.
and I really do need to.
Because most
Yeah.
people are in the system of keeping their brain running,
See, I
trying to
don't.
keep track of the events of tomorrow. And this one keeps track of the events of the week after, what
I
she's
do,
going to wear
I
2
do,
days
I do.
after,
He knows
what
me.
she's going to cook the day after
He
that,
knows
what
me.
earrings and what purse she's going to wear. I mean, that's part of her personality, so she can't cut it
And
off.
one of the things that I do, see, when you said notebook and a pen and paper, I have a little micro cassette recorder.
Ooh.
So I'll lean over and say whatever it is that I have to say in the recorder and play it back the next day, because sometimes you can't read your handwriting the next day.
Yeah.
Sleep is going on.
You got a groove on, too. You got your groove on a good
Yeah.
day. It's like, what the hell did I write?
Too much
Are you
red
really
wine.
Janelle checked in. Thank you for checking in, Janelle, and thank you for listening to the All About You show. Every week
She's
she is
loyal.
our
We love her.
faithful, loyal listener. Thank you, Janelle. She's asking about women specifically. She says she's not sure if we have heard, but she understands it's hard for women to detect heart disease. Susan, can you talk with us a little bit about women and heart disease?
Absolutely.
It's still the number one killer of women, from what I understand.
It is.
And she's absolutely right, because I never, at no point in time did I ever have a chest pain, and I can speak to that of my mother as well. My mother had hers, she was in her 70s, never had a chest pain. So it's one of those things where being aware of the pains or the things going on in our
On your body, period.
you have a sense, I can't even, I don't even know if I can verbalize what that sense is. You have a sense of something being direly wrong. And I believe that that's the wisdom of the body, that God provides you with this wisdom to know that this isn't like strep throat.
This is a little bit
This
more
isn't
serious.
this is something completely different, and it feels completely different. And even the doctor said, when I was trying to explain it to them, they said they hear it all the time. And like I said, when I went in, I had seizing cramps across my shoulder blades. Those were consistent. My shortness of breath was consistent. Don't look at me now. I'm warm now because I'm a little excited. It's a little warm. But I had that, what I now know to be, it was like a hot flash. And it was beautiful. It was nice and cool. So I had all these symptoms that you would never immediately attach to a heart attack. And as I told you, the nurse had to do a couple things before they finally came back. I was admitted to the hospital before my test results confirmed that I had a heart attack. And that was because I was lucid. I was having conversation. I wasn't that laid out unconscious kind of gripping your chest kind of making. I wasn't none of those things.
You were doing what women typically do. As females, what we do, we get through the burn. Once you get through the burn, it's fine. Just keep working, choke through it, and just keep going.
Men do that too.
Oh, not like we do.
Not with that cough and sniffles and that y'all get, and
Wait a
then all of a
minute.
sudden you shut
That's
down. You can't do
That's
anything.
only once every 3 years that we get to play sick
No.
and have somebody wait on us. So, give us that room, give us that.
I wonder why it is, in relation to Janelle's question, why is it that we do all the work, but we get the least symptoms of something so major? I think men may get affected.
Oh, my father did.
He was totally different from your mom?
He had the chest pain and the arm pain, and he was laid out on the floor the whole night.
Wow.
Yeah, he had a quadruple bypass on my so.
So is this what you speak about? Like I was on your website and I was reading some things. Is this what you speak of when you mean invisible victims?
Yes.
This is okay.
Because sometimes you don't know, and that's even if it has to do with any other sort of disease.
Okay.
Even. Because once again, and I go back to Alzheimer's because so many people more now than ever are diagnosed, and that too has been linked to our food and in conjunction with what goes on with our hearts. My father-in-law, we lost him several years back because of that. My mother has a little bit of, and it's funny that you mentioned your grandmother, because my mother has a little bit of that thing where she feels the need to have sugar more often, and I tested it on her. It impacts her memory, her fogginess, it impacts all of that.
It exacerbates that?
Yes, it impacts all of that. And one of the things she tells us is growing up in the country, you made bread when you were low on food, because you always had flour, you could get eggs from the chicken, you had cows for the milk, all of that stuff. So it was bread. And even now, before she'll have a big breakfast, she will have toast with butter and a cup of coffee.
That bread is a staple.
It's evil.
It's a staple.
It turns into sugar.
It absolutely does.
Instantly.
And she same thing. We go in the grocery store. She loves all of that. So in the midst of changing a lot of those things about my body and detoxing, and it wasn't done pretty. If you talk to my husband, he'll tell you about giving up that there's sugar because I was real big on that. Because I did all of that before he ever gave up food up.
You went through withdrawal, didn't you?
Oh my goodness, I was growling at people.
Right. When I fasted, I did kind of go through withdrawal.
I did that after about, my third day.
You got hangry.
Fine.
Hangry.
See, that's just how y'all are. Y'all just
You had a room for the women. I shut that down.
Y'all gonna come up missing.
Right. Let's see what happened to Lightning. I don't know.
Be careful when you walk back out.
Y'all heard him, right?
So in terms of supplements, diet, exercise, what is it that you do? Because you look amazing. You look absolutely
And my
amazing.
journey is not over.
I know that's right.
Over. I make sure that I hydrate enough. As a matter of fact, my big orange bottle of water, I left it out in the car because I got.
Okay, you just talked me.
I don't.
Yeah, you said it wrong.
But I drink minimum 8 cups of water a day. I know people hear it all the time, but it is very intentional. You have to be deliberate about that kind of thing.
Your health in general.
Absolutely, because if you're not, it is very easy to get in the habit of not doing something.
Yeah.
So I definitely make sure I get my water in. I drink a fruit and plant-based shake in the morning. I do that in the morning. I have found the tools for nutrient-rich fruit and vegetables. They're in capsules, chewables. I do that every day because I can't get enough. As much as I know about what we need, first
You
of
can't
all,
always fulfill the obligation of the chart.
Now, when you say you drink a fruit-based smoothie, because I know friends of mine says, "Oh, well, I drink my milk." So I was like, "Yeah, but you make the base of your smoothies out of some sugary sweet blueberry,
Which is not
drink
helping at all, right?
Instead of using all natural fruit, the base is instead of it being a yogurt or instead of it being water or simple syrup or whatever it may be." the base of his smoothies is like high C or something.
No,
No.
Orange juice or something like that.
No.
High C is not orange juice. Tampico, High C, Sunny D, none of that is orange juice. Those are orange drinks.
Yes.
They're
Made
sugary
up in a-
orange
Made
drinks.
up in a lab, usually.
Exactly, and the artificial flavoring also impacts your brain function. Just so you
Yes.
know, any
Yes.
preservatives, artificial anything, they impact your brain function.
And people continuously indulge in aspartame.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, that is like a no-no, and we still don't get the fact that this advertisers are coming at us for dollars. They don't
Absolutely.
care about your health, your well-being, whether or not your family has to
Absolutely.
bury somebody. They can care less. So, family, this is your responsibility to take care of yourself. Go ahead. What else?
Absolutely, and I make sure I'm doing some sort of moving. I too wear a Fitbit or some sort of. If I'm not wearing this one, I've got some sort of monitor on. 10,000 steps is always my goal. That may be in addition to a workout.
Right.
Which I laugh now because I probably work out more now than I did when I was in my 20s. Other than the fact
Now
that
you
I
have
was
to. You
physically
know better.
active more in my 20s too. You know, you dance at the club.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole nother. That's a whole nother.
Sweating out of relax.
That's a whole nother moving that booty.
Yeah, there you go,
At
baby.
the club.
But I make it my business to do something.
Gotcha.
I meditate with them.
Yes.
I don't know how to
Me
do
too.
that.
It's so
I
necessary.
don't know how to.
We know.
I know. I'm sorry. I don't know how to relax.
See,
I do
meditation
that.
is
I
about
do that.
relaxing.
I don't know how to do that.
It's called let go of control.
Yeah.
That's the
I
whole
get
idea
it.
of it is
I
to
get it.
relinquish.
I
To
get it.
relinquish the feel the need that you need to control everything. It's just
Yeah, I get it.
it's a
I just
challenge.
can't do it, but I
It's
get
hard.
it.
It's not
Yeah, it
easy
is
all the
hard.
time.
What were we
A
saying? Daisy?
texter.
Yeah, we have a text and they're asking, is there a recognized lead time to avoiding heart disease? For example, is there a 6-month regimen that could be significant in getting ahead of it?
Haha. This is what I think. And by the way, the question from Janelle, what about yoga? Yoga is fantastic. But this is what I believe. I believe that first of all, you are never too. Look at that. You are never too old to start making changes.
Right.
You start making the changes that I've talked about. You get the water in. You work on getting your sleep. You work on eating the proper types of food. You work on your stress level. My cardiologist talked about that. He said, you have to let go. I had to learn how to say no.
Yes.
And my way of learning how to say no was literally in front of the mirror every day because I'd never heard
Say no.
myself say that.
I don't say it often, and that's
No.
probably part of my frustration.
And knowing that you don't have to say it, you don't have
Takes
to say it with an
pressure.
attitude.
Just
You don't have
know
to
it.
say it with a frown. You can say it. There's a love way to say no. Oh no, I'm not gonna do it.
Right.
See how smooth that was?
I'm
Oh,
so
baby.
sorry.
Oh.
And I didn't feel bad that you just told me no. I walked away
You didn't
happy.
ask for anything.
I
That's all
didn't
right.
even ask for anything. But I'm like, oh, okay.
And you really get accustomed to it because I didn't grow up in an environment where you said
Say
no
no.
about good
Yeah.
things. If it was a good thing,
You said
well,
yes.
you said yes. How
Right.
dare you say no? So that is a part of relinquishing that control, but getting rid of that stress.
Well, in today's world where everything is so fast, it's hard to get rid of stress. So I
Right.
guess you have to, as Janelle had mentioned about yoga,
Yes.
different exercises. I read this book on Paleolithic diet,
Mhm.
which is mainly just plant-based food for the
Mhm.
most part,
Mhm.
and meat.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't agree with the meat part, but I do believe that plant-based foods are far better for us than the whey and the soy and all these other things that
Absolutely.
we have. I don't even approve of soy milk,
Mm-hmm.
because I think all of that has some sort of issues, for especially
For
having
women.
thyroid. I have thyroid issues,
Mhm,
so with that you will have problems if you consume soy. And I like tofu, but I just can't
Absolutely.
do it. But as you get a little bit older, you have to realize that your body craves differently, and you have to learn to really live responsibly. But in closing, Susan, what do you want our listeners to know and to be privy to prevent this from happening to them?
It's to be aware that when you start saying that something is going to kill everyone, it's not about if you die. It's about if you live.
Absolutely.
Because if you live after a stroke, if you live after a heart attack, if you live after cancer, what kind of burden? And I'm going to say this like that. I'm not trying to be a burden on my grandbabies. I want to have them enjoy life with me, to see what 53 looks like, to see what 63 looks like, and to know that you can be healthy. And how that happens, because if we don't teach them, how will they know? That's our real legacy.
Absolutely.
If I'm a millionaire and I'm chronically ill, then I'm not
So
a millionaire.
what? You're not a millionaire. Actually, you're dirt poor. Tom.
There you go.
My mother used to say, you know, when you have your health, you are rich. And she
That
said
is
that
it.
to us
Your
when we
health,
were
your health.
little children. She says, when you have your health, you are rich. I will
Absolutely.
never forget her words.
Now, you take some supplements. We need to wrap this up quickly. When you take some supplements, and what does that do for you? Does that kind of get you back into the swing of things, not having to overeat in any specific realm of dietary?
Absolutely. Because I already integrated the detox and I get the fruits and vegetables, I still don't get enough, and the quality of what I'm getting will never be what it was. So I have to supplement that with a whole fruit-based supplement.
Whole foods. This is
It's whole
important.
food. It's not. It's got a nutrition label. It's just fruits and vegetables. And I take those every day along with drinking my shakes in the morning because that's not, that's a shake. It's not food. But it's still getting it. It knows its address because it's not altered. Yeah, it knows where it goes. With the strawberry.
Well, your
it knows where
cells
to
have a
go.
mitochondria, and it knows
Exactly.
to go there to feed your cells.
Exactly. So I really feel like I have not had a cold now. Probably it's going on 7 years.
Wow.
If something happens to me, I've got fight in me.
You've got some immunity.
Right. It's something that I can. I know that I have fortified myself.
You've got your whole armor.
There you
That
go.
whole armor of
Did
There
you
you
say,
go.
did she say
Yes.
warrior on mission?
Yes,
I
she's a
sure
warrior.
did. I
Yes,
sure
she's a
did.
warrior.
Good.
And I want to help equip other people to be warriors, to give them their armor.
Absolutely. Well, guys, wellness is much more than physical exercise, diet, health, and nutrition. There are other forms of wellness, such as social wellness, and that is the ability to relate and connect with other people in our world. There's also emotional wellness, and that is the ability to understand ourselves and cope with the challenges that life can bring. Then there is one of my favorites, spiritual wellness. It is the ability to establish peace and harmony in our lives. Then you have, for whatever reason, environmental wellness is the ability to recognize our own responsibility for the quality of air, the quality of water. I'm an alkaline water drinker, so there are times that we have to be mindful of the environment. And then also, for those of us that work, there's occupational wellness.
Yes, of course.
Be able to get along with the people you work with.
Career
Just break that
wellness.
down.
This next one is
Oh,
mine.
but intellectual wellness, the ability to open our minds to new ideas and experiences that can be applied to personal decisions. And then there's your physical wellness, to be able to maintain a healthy quality of life. Also, guys, on our Facebook page, and I guess our website as well, we do have a book that talks about key ingredients to loving yourself. And as I mentioned earlier, this is self-love. This is self-care. So our book is that we have on our website right now is called Key Ingredients to Loving Yourself, Nourishment from the Inside Out. When you have the right ingredients and you put the right stuff in, only good can come out of that. You know the saying, garbage in, garbage out. When you put in good stuff, it's good. And this book is by Gloria Davis Armstrong. We encourage you to go to our website and order a copy. It's easy read, recipes that are simple and easy. And Susan has, I have to say before we go, Susan has tremendous recipes for desserts and so she's made this little thing in my head that says it's the snacks because I'm a snack eater.
I am too.
So now I can't even enjoy a snack when I heard hearing her voice. It's a snack.
See, just like her family members, when they see her coming,
Right.
you hear her voice.
I hear her voice in
Your
my head.
voices.
So you reprogram mentally, you say that it's a snack.
Yes. The foods that I need to be careful of aren't the snacks, mostly. The meals I'm good with. It's the snacks.
Yeah, see, I'm good on
Well,
these.
can I eat grapes?
Absolutely.
Uvas. In Spanish, uvas.
You also have to be aware of how much of anything. Too much of a good thing will always make you wrong.
Well, we'd like to thank Susan Ned for joining us today and giving us her instructions as to how to get into making modification to your behavior, because this is a lifestyle change. This is not, what she's talking about is not something that you can just decide, I'm going to do it this week, or a New Year's resolution, and then when New Year's is over, so is a resolution, and you're going back to your normal self. But in closing, Susan, you have something to say?
Just make it a mission. Be a warrior, make it your mission. And like you say, your health is your wealth. That's all you have to give your family. That's your legacy.
You got something?
Yes, the thing about yoga, I'm a witness. I used to do yoga regularly, and yes, it does relax you. OMG.
I
And
can
I
try to
know
get
that's
it.
about, oh, you would love it.
Yeah,
You would love it. So
Daydream.
it's encouraged.
Like,
I'll share one with you as we close each week. I always like to share a little moment of gratitude. My message for today is don't compare. Life begets life. Energy creates energy. It's important that you are spending yourself, that you become rich. So make sure that we address those issues and we're paying attention to ourselves.
and eat responsibly.
Yes.
Just like you drink responsibly.
Eat responsibly. Your life depends on it, literally. We'll see you next week.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of our sponsors and partners. Check out our website at www.allaboutyoushow.com. That's all about you, the letter U, show.com. Join our live feed on our Facebook page, and follow us on Twitter at All About You Show. Remember, at All About You, we talk about the things you
I prayed about that in the car before I got out. Right there. It can help one somebody, just one. And I like it.
The ending, the outro. That's what was playing right now.
Okay,
the outro.
okay, well, I was
Yeah, we were trying to listen.
we were listening. How do you say, you like you? How do you like you?
Well, I like the way it sounded, but he was saying it's LinkedIn. It's like it is because it's all the social media. It's the website. It's our Facebook.
It's okay when it's the end, anyway.
Yeah. But we need it. It needs to be in there.
Can you put your stuff on our website? She sold this product called Juice Plus. I was familiar with 18 years.